Hello, in this video I want to talk about the meaning of the phrase revenge is a dish best served cold. It expresses the notion that vengeance is more satisfying when extracted sometime after the harm has been instigated. I've been seeing a lot of questions again around karma and tactics to use on the abuser as they have on you, and about getting them back, or karma. So in this video I want to talk about that and how being caught up in the invisible chains tricks you. And if you stay to the end, I talk about ways of dealing with this and where the true gift can be found. Hello, my name's Elizabeth Goddard from the Divorce Sanctuary. I'm author of Finding Lily and the A to Z of Emotional Abuse. On this channel I talk about healing from emotional abuse and divorcing both emotionally and physically from the emotional abuser. If you're new to the channel, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you're returning, welcome back and thank you. And thank you so much. It's been incredible, all my new subscribers over the last few weeks. I just thank you so much for your support. I think it's really natural, a natural response when you've experienced some form of hurt or you've been duped by someone, that you hope they experience something similar or are treated in a similar way. Particularly when you've been hurt by them and you're still experiencing that pain. Revenge is a dish best served cold. It expresses the notion that vengeance is more satisfying when it's extracted at a later time. This saying certainly gets about a bit, both in time and space. It sounds as though it should be from something like Shakespeare. Vengeance was a frequent theme of Tudor drama, and several authors wrote about it. Francis Bacon coined at least 3 revenge proverbs. Revenge is a kind of wild justice. A man that studieth revenge keeps his own wounds green. And revenge triumphs over death. And it doesn't matter where it originated from, the proverb has stuck or struck a chord with the English-speaking world. It's recently been used in films like Kind Hearts and Coronets, The Godfather, and it's also appeared in Star Trek 2 to be precise. But is revenge what you really want? See, I don't think it is, but I'm going to ask you to dig deep and ask yourself, do I really want revenge or karma? Or is this part of the healing process? Is it part of the cognitive dissonance that's taking place? Cognitive dissonance occurs when we experience a state of holding 2 or more contradictory thoughts or beliefs at the same time. And cognitive dissonance is the reason people feel that like they're going crazy, but it's a very specific kind of crazy. This form of abuse penetrates on so many different levels. Your brain was being tricked to believe that what you were being told was the truth. It takes time to de-traumatize. And for people healing from a toxic relationship, it can cause emotional confusion and anxiety. Eventually you might have started to wonder what was happening and believed you couldn't trust your own judgment. You will not get closure, so it's helpful to understand what and why you feel the way you do, and understand what comes next and the healing that needs to be done. Through my own healing journey, I know the damage emotional abuse leaves in your life, physically, mentally, emotionally and spiritually, as well as financially, and how hard not only to walk away but to recover from. It was a game and I didn't have the rules, and each time I thought I understood them, they were changed. Emotional abuse is a pattern of behaviour. One person uses fear, humiliation, guilt or manipulation to gain power and control over another. Unlike physical abuse, it goes unnoticed, and the damage it causes puts you in a state of confusion. You had no idea it was taking place, and like Chinese water torture, it happened very slowly and turned you crazy. They chipped away at your self-esteem, and you began to doubt your perception of reality. As I said, I think it's a natural response when you experience being hurt or duped by someone, that you hope they experience something similar or are treated in a similar way, particularly when you've been hurt by them and you're in pain. So if you're wanting to know when the emotional abuser is going to experience karma for the damage that they've caused you, you're either at the beginning of your healing journey or you are on the way to recovery, but you're not fully recovered. The abuser may have used many tactics to trap you and to gain power and control over you, your life and your finances. They manipulated you into believing that they were protecting you, when in fact they were abusing you. And if you're not careful, the chains and the rumination and the information can turn you even crazier and wanting to use their tactics to get back at them. So please believe me when I tell you, this will not end well. You will get hurt if you go down this route. Could it be that your wounds are screaming out in pain? When you come out of a toxic relationship, there are so many things going on in your body and your mind. Just like a drug addict or someone trying to give up an addiction, you have cravings. Only your craving is a person. You were trapped and you had no idea the abuse was going on. I will link some videos in the description below on bonding and trauma bonds. But bonds are created for survival. They're usually with our caregiver, who's the foundation of our attachment. So when our safety is threatened in any way, we turn to them for support and protection. There's trauma bonding that makes it so hard to heal from these toxic and emotionally abusive relationships. The damage that was caused puts you in a state of confusion. You had no idea this abuse was taking place, and it makes it so hard to enforce boundaries, which is then why it's so painful to stay away from them. So after getting you addicted to hormones like oxytocin and dopamine through the love bombing process, they started to introduce situations that released your stress hormones: fight, flight, fawn, freeze. This was done by slight put downs and creating drama, manufacturing situations and emotions. When they threatened your safety through their bad behaviour, you turned to them for help and protection, rationalising their behaviour, believing they cared for you, which created further bonding. And this is why you felt so connected to them. So could it be that your stress levels are so high, you're experiencing fear, and you can't imagine your life without them? It's much like a physical wound. This emotional wound hurts and it causes us pain during our lives. It might leave us without the emotional coping mechanisms that others may have, and it might be the reason we don't feel so whole. By tracking down the wound and allowing it to heal, you can start to feel whole again and you can break the cycle. But please remember, if you've been walking around with this wound for decades, it might not happen within hours. You might have learnt behaviours to protect yourself from any further hurt. So you might need to work on changing your thoughts as well. When you think about the way you react to a situation, what's the emotion coming up for you? The abuser triggered this reaction. They were like an earworm, constantly feeding you with information, undermining you and telling you what to think and how to feel, who you are, who you should be, what you should be doing, who you should spend your time with. So could it be that you now feel abandoned and very alone? Could it be that you're watching them playing happy families with their new partner and you're in pain? All are very valid reasons, but they don't justify causing more pain to yourself. And if you don't get the desired effect, they cause you even more pain. The other thing these wounds are doing is keeping you trapped. They are not allowing you to move on. Please believe me, I know this pain is real. I've felt it myself, or my version of what you're experiencing. And I've heard so many times, the best vengeance is to walk away, to go and live your best life. And I do appreciate it's easier to say than it is to do. When your emotions get carried away and you can't breathe, when this pain is emanating from your chest and your brain isn't working and you can't think. So my question is, why are you waiting for vengeance or wanting karma to sneak up and bite them on the arse? If you're not careful, the chains, the invisible chains, and the rumination and the information that you're discovering can turn you even crazier. And you're just left waiting for them to get karma. Karma originates in Hinduism and Buddhism. It's the sum of a person's actions in this and previous states of existence, viewed by deciding their fate in future existences. You might see it as one of the universal laws. Perhaps it comes under the law of cause and effect or the law of compensation. They cause pain to you, so therefore something bad will happen. And you're sitting back waiting for justice. For every action, there's a reaction. It's not about taking revenge. You're waiting for something to happen, justifying it in a spiritual way that they caused harm. So harm must at some point come back to them, and waiting for the universe to equal it all out in some way. It's a bit like you reap what you sow. Karma means action. Good action gets good consequences. Bad action gets bad consequences. Good means selfless, not from the ego. Bad is selfish actions. Thinking about punishment, envisaging it from the outside forces that will somehow bring about justice. In karma, the bad action has the consequence on the inside, and this is the same with good karma. Bad actions are about the cycle of selfishness, promoting and defending yourself and blaming others. So any action that promotes and defends selfishness, all about me, pushing people out the way to get what they want. Does that sound familiar? This is about the feelings of losing control and fear. The punishment is suffering on the inside. So you could look at it from a different point of view. They are already suffering. And looking at it at a way of karma getting up or catching up with them, consider that it might already have done. When the relationship ended, they had this desperate desire to rebalance the scales, to show everyone that they were okay. Perhaps you did the same, even though you were in excruciating pain. You might still be in that pain. You pretended everything was okay. They only have a false self. So they hide behind the mask that they created, the persona they created during the idealization stage, when they were being so attentive. They created the person that they believe you were looking for. They created the same wounds you had, and then they took the best qualities that you had and they mirrored them back to you. And it was this that made you feel amazing. They added a few hooks to keep you keen. They told you about their exes and why they were exes. And this is really important. You then made a mental note not to behave in the same way in order for you not to end up in that same place, discarded. So you worked really hard to make sure that it would never happen to you. And here you are now. And they've done the same with their new supply, or they're doing it at the moment. They have their own unique personalities, but a common question is, do they have a manual, or is there something that tells them how to behave? They repeat this over and over and over again. They may eventually find supply that will put up with anything and everything. And as they're getting older, they might decide to stick with them. As long as they're getting supply, or the supply that they need, they can remain there. And they will do everything to ensure that they are not abandoned. But whilst all this is happening, you're watching and waiting. Your life has been put on hold. It was put on hold the moment you met them. The fake future you created had just enough of your hopes and dreams to make it believable. to make you believe it was yours, but it wasn't. It was taken over and manipulated, like most of the other things in your life. You may long for justice, waiting round for it to happen, hoping you will witness it. Where does this come from? What wound is it? Is vengeance a dish best served cold? Coercive control is now a law in the UK, but have you ever considered pursuing them through the court system for justice? And if you have, what stopped you? Perhaps you're still in pain, or you don't think that you'll be taken seriously, or that you realise that they would manipulate everyone in the process. And if you have been a victim to this type of abuse, have you thought about all the other people who came before you or will come after you? And you might have wondered how they managed to get away with this time after time after time. You might have tried to reach out to some of their other victims. And if you are considering reaching out to warn their new supply what they're like, they already know about you. They know that you're crazy, and all you will be doing is proving the abuser was right. It's amazing, isn't it, how we hear their story and we believe them when they tell us that we're the only ones who've ever understood them. They will be doing exactly the same, making sure that they secure their place, and they won't be doing the same thing that you did. Are you still wanting them to experience the karma you envisaged for them, living in hope that someone else causes them the pain that they've caused you? Or are you waiting for that moment that vengeance will be served? Or are you ready to take a deep breath and a step forward? It doesn't have to be with your best foot, either will do. They set out to destroy you. They will never know how much damage they have really caused, and how many people may have even taken their own lives because of their behaviour. They have a false self, a fake reality, and they do this from the ego to protect themselves. Remember, you lived in that life, living behind their mask. They may project a new image, but what is really the truth? Does the emotion of vengeance and karma come about through you trying to prove to yourself that you aren't crazy? They're gone. They went off into the distance. They lied about you and they left you to pick up the pieces. Is this what is driving the wound? Trying to prove to everyone, including yourself, that you aren't crazy and that they caused this. Trying to justify your behaviour, trying to justify why you allowed this to happen to you. They are unhappy and full of rage, and they have been faking it from their childhood. They learn early how to deflect the blame and how to hide. So what is happening to you while you're waiting? They live in a state of constant alert, trying to stay out of abandonment hell. Their fragile inner self is in pain. Every slight made or criticism cuts into them and they go into a rage. So when is karma going to get them? And are they ever going to experience what you've experienced? They will always be trapped, living from drama to drama, claiming they hate it. They are never going to experience what it feels like to be whole, ever. They're never going to know what it's like to connect and to bond, because they live in constant fear that they will be abandoned. You were in pain. You know how it feels, and it is hell. You've been imprisoned by their wounds, or your own wounds. They are very kindly mirrored back to you. They are living a fake life, just like the one they were living with you, and the one before that, and all the time they're living in fear. Fear of being exposed and fear of abandonment. So perhaps karma actually visits them daily, and perhaps there is only so long that the new supply can live like that before they wake up and realise that they have been put in hell and they abandon the abuser, or that they too are no longer a challenge and are abandoned. We're all on the same narcissistic scale. But for the abuser, when there was a trauma or an abandonment, they chose to abandon themselves. So they will always live in constant karma. They are manipulative, aggressive, soul-destroying. They're self-centered, arrogant. They lack empathy and consideration for others. They may have excessive need for admiration. They're patronizing, demanding, any of that selfless or selfish. And if the real meaning of karma is an internalization of this, knowing they are doing wrong but continuing to do it, aren't they living in karma? One of the first things you want to do is to tell everybody who is relevant what happened to you. You want to unmask them. Maybe thinking about it in this way doesn't give you the justice that you're looking for, that eye for an eye type. I urge you then to do more healing, because those thoughts are still coming from wounds. I'm sure you really, really don't want to hurt anyone or to see anyone hurt. So where are these emotions coming from? The abusers are bullies, and they use others' fears and insecurities to hurt them. You are truly healed when you no longer hurt, when you no longer want vengeance or karma. And remember, they don't want you to heal. They want you to stay small, and they want you to stay wounded. You are their karma. I said at the beginning, if you stay to the very end, I will share with you some techniques to help you through this. Vengeance and karma are holding you back. You're wasting time. When you're waiting and watching, you're not moving forward. And you have a duty of care to yourself to heal these wounds. I'll put in the description box below a link to a grounding exercise and some breathing exercises. Staying out of your monkey brain is going to help you so much. Addressing and answering some of the questions that I asked during this video. Where are these questions? Where does this vengeance, where does this need for karma come from? Because once you're able to listen to your body, this is alchemy. This is pure magic. We are all a bunch of chemicals, and we are able to control them. We're able to tame them. We are able to change the chemicals within our body by breathing and grounding and changing our thought patterns. That is alchemy. That is taking the grit and turning it into gold. As I said, you have a duty of care to heal yourself. I hope you found this useful. If you'd like to find out more about working with me, I'll put the links below to my website, to the group that I run on Facebook, to both my books, Finding Lily and the A to Z of Emotional Abuse, and to my free workbooks, Self-Care is Vital and Turn Broken into Your Superpower. Remember, grounding and breathing are your new best friends, and there is pure magic that can come from this situation. I'm sending you loads and loads and loads of love.